Hi, my name's Barbara Cunningham. I'm here to talk to you today, not in person unfortunately, but the best way that we can, about my experience with mental health over the last 16 years. So basically I have two children who are 16 and 13 years old, and after both of the pregnancies I suffered from postpartum psychosis. Both pregnancies, though they were both IVF babies, both pregnancies were normal. Everything progressed as we would hope. There was nothing to suggest that there was any cause for concern. I'd never suffered any mental health problems previously. My son, who is 16, his birth was quite traumatic. It was a long labour, an induced labour, and I did actually lose a significant amount of blood, and I did receive a transfusion about 48 hours after he was born. When I returned home, I realised that I wasn't sleeping properly, but I just put it down to the fact that I was a new mum. I was really excited, everything was new, and we finally had the baby that we'd been wanting for so long. My husband was becoming more and more concerned about my behaviour, and he did try on several occasions to alert the health professionals who were involved in my care. Unfortunately, no midwife or health visitor that came to see me after the birth of our son had ever met me prior to the birth. So in my eyes, they have no benchmark. They didn't really know how I was before. And really, I believe that partners and family need to be listened to in these situations, and quite clearly my husband wasn't being listened to. We probably had about 10 to 12 health professionals over the course of the 11 days come to see me, and no one recognised that I was suffering from postpartum psychosis. Eventually, a locum doctor came out to see me, and he was actually also the company doctor in a firm that I'd worked in for 10 years. So he knew me pretty well, and instantly he knew that there was a problem. And then things escalated quite rapidly. I was unfortunately sectioned, and because there was no space available at the Cardiff Mother and Baby unit, which was fortunately open at the time, I was taken to Whitchurch Hospital and placed in a mixed ICU ward. I still maintain to this day that no new mother should ever be placed in a mixed ICU ward. I remember feeling scared, frightened, absolutely petrified that they would take my child away. Obviously, I wasn't with my child at this point. I'd exclusively breastfed him up to this point, and I was having trouble with accepting the need to take medication because I was worried about the ability to feed him going forwards, and none of these needs could be met in a situation of a general ward. I was in Whitchurch for 4 days, and then thankfully I was transferred to the Cardiff Mother and Baby unit and reunited with my son, and we then stayed there for 3 months. I gradually got a little better, and my mood, which had been very heightened and manic, started to calm, and I was allowed to go home. The transition to going home was very, very difficult. I don't feel that there was the right support there for me at the time. I had a CPN who used to come and see me from the mental health team. But really her experience was not in perinatal, and it really did need to be somebody who had a really, really good experience in that area. I didn't feel like I had anybody to turn to. The internet in those days was not what it is today. Anything that you could find about postpartum psychosis was very damning, very frightening. But I did start to get better. I was coping. And then, unfortunately, as is quite common with postpartum psychosis, the depression hit. And it hit very, very hard. And it made life very, very difficult. And it was another whole sort of difficult. Family didn't really understand. We really had no exposure to depression in our family before. And I didn't have support from the mental health team that I needed as a new mum. But gradually I did get better, and I went back to work, and life started to resume normality. Then I had another baby 3.5 years later, our daughter, again by IVF, postpartum psychosis again, less intense this time because I was under consultant care, started taking medication straight away, and although we couldn't prevent it, the onset was slower and altogether a better experience. I was again admitted to the mother and baby unit in Cardiff, and again stayed there for 3 months. Then I was well for 8 years, and unfortunately after 8 years became quite poorly again, and after 2 bouts of manic and then depression, I was diagnosed with bipolar. So that was about 5 years ago, and I've been well now for over 3 years. I take daily medication and live what I would determine a normal, fulfilled life. So my takeaways from my experiences is that there's a great need for family support as well as support for mum. Unfortunately, there weren't any groups or any support available to me at that time, but now there are groups, there are charities such as Action on Postpartum Psychosis, who I work quite closely with, and I believe that the links to these groups and charities need to be given to people who are suffering and their families. I believe trained support is absolutely necessary for recovery. And key to that, I believe, is people like me with previous experience who can show empathy and kindness to those who need it, and understanding. I'm really grateful and encouraged that we are given the opportunity to talk to you and to let you know our experiences and what we've taken away from those, and it's really encouraging to see that our views are being taken seriously and taken into consideration in choices and decisions that are being made going forward. And I'm really proud to be able to help facilitate that. Thanks for listening.